The purpose of these lessons is to show you the logic behind the most basic Chinese characters, beginning with the simplest pictograms and later combining these elements to create more complex characters. Today's lesson introduces variations on the character for water, which itself is based on the pictogram for a flowing river, 3 vertical lines. To express the idea of actual water, the outside verticals were shortened and pointed inward toward the center line. Water is pronounced third tone, shui, shui. Our first example is unboiled water, literally raw water, sheng shui, sheng shui. Chinese people usually do not trust the purity of tap water, instead boiling it and drinking it hot or warm. As a cultural note, nearly everyone believes that cold water is bad for your health, and will not serve it unless specifically requested to. The combination shui shou means a sailor, as in Sinbad and Popeye. And in these times when clean water is becoming scarce, it's wise to sheng shui, conserve water, sheng shui. Our second character is an ideogram of a hand reaching and disappearing into a pool of swirling water. We saw this whirlpool element in Lesson 11 in the character hui. A 3-drop water reticle appears on the left for emphasis. These 3 drops are the most common form of water when used in combination with other elements. This is a split sound character, pronounced second tone mei, mei, or fourth tone mo, mo. The hand in swirling water serves both a semantic and phonetic function here. Fourth tone mo is the rarer form and means to submerge or disappear. When used by the police or customs officials, it means to confiscate, in other words, to make something disappear. One expression we can create is chu mo, meaning to appear and disappear, to frequent a favorite location, or even to haunt, said of ghosts and demons. More common is the second tone pronunciation, mei, because it's an extremely useful negative, translated as no, none, not yet, or past actions with did not. For example, mei shui means there's no water. Notice that subjects are often understood, especially with sentences beginning with the English expression there is, there are, etc. Another example would be mei ren zai, mei ren zai. There's no one here. There's no one home. The third character in today's lesson is the ideogram for ice, pronounced first tone, bing, bing. It's composed of the ice reticle, which is only 2 drops instead of 3. This 2-drop ice reticle never appears alone, only in combination with other elements. In this case, water. Some examples with ice would be bing shui, meaning logically ice water. And if you don't want ice in your drink, you would say chu bing, meaning to leave out the ice. If we double the ice and add the particle de, we can make the expression icy, as in ice-cold hands, 冰冰的手. This next character is unrelated to water, but it's an easy-to-write and useful character, originating from the drawing of a cave entrance. The Chinese often lived in caves and still do in some areas of the country, and many characters will attest to this. Anyway, this easy character is pronounced fourth tone, ru, ru, and means to go in or to enter. When combined with the character for exit, we can make the expression 出入, 出入, meaning simply to come in and go out of a building, or its extended meaning of discrepancy, where numbers or alibis don't match up. 入土 is an expression meaning to bury or inter, literally to go into the ground. If you're about to 入土, you have one foot in the grave. Another expression describing a submarine disappearing under the sea would be 没入水中, literally sink and enter into the middle of water. Notice how economical the Chinese language can be. Another easy-to-understand pictogram is the character for mountain, pronounced first tone, 山, 山. It's composed of only 3 strokes, the left and bottom stroke being combined into one. With this character, we can create the expression for iceberg, literally ice mountain, 冰山, 冰山. If that sounds funny, remember that English iceberg itself comes from the Danish for ice mountain, berg meaning mountain or hill in all the Germanic languages. Another example is 山水, 山水, meaning mountains and rivers, natural scenery. This is the expression you need if you enjoy Chinese landscape paintings. Our next character is again based on water and shows a pair of hands with water slipping through the fingers. The ideogram for grown person, 带, is added at the top as a phonetic aid. So this new phonosemantic character is pronounced fourth tone, 太, 太, and means unhindered, passing freely, peaceful, safe, and prosperous. It's not hard to understand the sense development here, from unhindered freedom to a feeling of safety, peace, and prosperity. The only problem is too much prosperity leads to extravagance and excess, to other extended meanings. Now that we've learned mountain, shan, we can write the name for one of China's 5 sacred mountains, Taishan, Taishan, or Mount Tai. Over thousands of years, 74 Chinese emperors are recorded as having conducted religious sacrifices here, paying homage to heaven and earth. In modern times, the name Taishan is also used to translate the name of the jungle-raised hero of stories by author Edgar Rice Burroughs, Tarzan. When talking about this ideogram, Tai, it's important to know that in old Chinese texts, this complex character was often used interchangeably with a much simpler one, also pronounced fourth tone, Tai. It's a phonosemantic combination too, with dai serving as the phonetic element. This simpler ideogram shows one man above another man, indicating a higher social position due to wealth or power. Today it refers to an excessive amount, or used as a respectful term to show deference toward the older generation and the imperial family. A very common use of this character is 太太, meaning wife. At one time this was an honorific term, reserved for the wife of high-ranking officials, but eventually began to be applied by the common people to any married woman, the way it's used today. The second syllable can also be pronounced with a neutral tone, 太太, but this habit of de-stressing final syllables is usually found among speakers of the accent in Beijing and surrounding areas. This simple 太 character is often translated as too, T-O-O in English, since it denotes excess. We can see this meaning in our next example. 回去太早. It's too early to go back. 回去太早, literally, go back too early, with subject plus be verb, it is, not used in Chinese. If you want a so-called adverbial usage, the next sentence shows this. 水手不太看书. Sailors don't often read. Sailors don't read much. 水手不太看书. As I said, these two characters are both pronounced fourth tone 太 and are often used interchangeably in older Chinese texts. Today, however, the two forms have been differentiated, with the water flowing through the fingers version referring to unobstructed movement, peaceful, safe, and prosperous, while the superior man version now indicates excessive amount or deference to elders. And now that we've seen these two characters and their phonetic elements, we have to reclassify da from Lesson 1 as a split sound character, since it has two pronunciations, da and dai. The only expression in which you will encounter the second pronunciation, dai, is the traditional name for a medical doctor, daifu, daifu. As with 太太, daifu may be spoken with a neutral tone for the second syllable, since they're very common terms of address. 太太, daifu. However, outside of the Beijing dialect, this neutral tone is usually reserved for sentence particles such as de. The Beijing accent is not the standard in China, what with its confusing habit of swallowing syllables and adding R sounds. If you want to be understood everywhere, it's best to stick to the standard. Here is our color chart with today's 5 characters and their correct stroke order. 水 美 冰 太 太 山 and 入 The following chart shows these same characters in printed form. If you've been following these lessons, you know that it's a good idea to fix the characters in your memory by copying them onto colored sheets of paper, underlining any homonyms, and circling those characters with more than one pronunciation. So, What's the takeaway from today's lesson? 1. The pictogram for water, 水, is derived from 3 vertical lines signifying our river. 2. Chinese people do not generally drink tap water, 生水, preferring instead warm or room temperature water that has been boiled. Ice water will never be served unless you specifically ask for it. 3. 水手 is a sailor, and to conserve water is 省水. 4. An ideogram of a hand in swirling water means to submerge or disappear, pronounced fourth tone, 没, as in 出没, to appear then disappear, or visit a location frequently. 5. When pronounced second tone, 没, this character serves as a negative, meaning no, none, or past time, did not. In other words, when an action disappears into the whirlpool, it no longer exists, becoming a thing of the past. May is useful for translating English. There is, there aren't, etc. There's no water, 没水. There's nobody here. 没人 or 没人在. 6. 冰 means ice. Other characters related to cold will include the 2-dot ice radical. And if you like ice water, you can ask for 冰水. If, on the other hand, you don't want ice in your drink, be sure to say 去冰. 7. The origin of enter or entrance is a simple drawing of a cave opening, pronounced fourth tone, 入, 入. The expression 出入 means coming and going or discrepancy, depending on the context. 8. 入土 means to bury in the ground, and disappear underwater is 没入水中. 9. The character for mountain is 山. An iceberg is 冰山. And the natural scenery depicted in Chinese art is called 山水. 10. The character for big or large in Lesson 1, 大, is actually a split sound character, also pronounced 带. This pronunciation is pretty much limited to one expression for doctor, 大夫. 11. 带 also appears as a phonetic in the character for water slipping through the fingers, 太. This auspicious character often appears in couplets around Lunar New Year's time, wishing for a peaceful, safe, and prosperous new year. Just as water cannot be grasped in the hand, good fortune will flow unobstructed. 12. Too much prosperity and freedom from restraint can result in extravagance and excess, a further connotation of 太. In modern Chinese, the man above man 太 character is reserved for expressing an excessive amount, or for addressing members of the older generation and the royal family. 13. When translating too much or not much in English, this is probably the best choice. For example, it's too early to go back, 回去太早, or Mrs. White doesn't read much, 白太太不太看书. 14. Taishan is the name of one of China's 5 sacred mountains. Taishan is also the transliterated name for Tarzan in Chinese. Now you will find a short quiz on double, triple character, and longer expressions. Answer using only the characters learned so far. Thank you for watching and listening.